Welcome to Embracing Inclusion, Empowering Campus Teams for Student Success. In this session, we delve into the concept of inclusion and how to best support it. We explore the significance of fostering an inclusive environment and working together to generate innovative ideas, effective strategies, and best practices. Let's dive in. Designed for any staff members who support inclusive classrooms, this course will connect to the idea that inclusion is an innovation, and there are many innovations embedded within the practice. We will cover topics such as why inclusion as a specially designed instruction exists, roles and responsibilities of staff members and students, and common barriers to this practice and how to overcome them, all through the lens of the PLC process. As we begin our time together, you will need a variety of resources. At this time, please go join the correct Google Classroom for your role and level and find the artifact and resources assigned to this course. If you prefer working from a printed copy of the artifact, you will need to print it on your own, as we will not have access to printers off campus or during in-person sessions. Our recommendation is to complete the artifact digitally, as this is the way it will be submitted in Google Classroom. Embracing inclusion as an innovation. The idea of innovation is not a new one. Since the beginning of time, humans have learned to evaluate a situation and improve upon it. From homes to clothes to processes and systems, we are natural innovators. Innovation number 1, the inclusion model. When it comes to special education and its existence in public school, it is relatively new in that special education was first set in place in 1975 and later revised in 1990 to become what we now know as the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or IDEA. In short, students with disabilities have the right to receive a free and appropriate public education in the least restrictive environment, including access to grade-level content as outlined by their Individual Education Program, or IEP. This ruling laid the foundation for innovation in that not only are we allowed to do school differently for students with disabilities, we are required to do school differently for students with disabilities. But inclusion is more than a set of criteria. It's a system of beliefs. It's a belief system that values diversity and fosters shared responsibilities to help all students reach their full potential. It believes every child is a vital part of the learning community and has a right to belong in the classroom with age-appropriate peers. And it ensures that every student has access to meaningful learning. When a student or staff member joins a general education classroom, we believe there is a purpose and a belonging that benefits all students and will conduct ourselves in a way that supports this belief. Innovation number 2, generalizing the practices of professional learning communities. It's no secret that one of the major tenets of Wiley ISD is the practice of professional learning communities. As PLCs, we believe in the 3 big ideas and 4 critical questions. We also believe that PLCs are not a meeting on the calendar, rather, a way we behave with our colleagues and interact with our own learning. General education content teams have long been established, and we are seeing a growing practice among our special education professionals as well. Knowing this, today's learning will focus on how we can connect the practices of professional learning communities to inclusion teams and among content and support staff. Let's review the 3 big ideas of a PLC. 1. Focus on student learning. 2. Focus on collaboration. 3. Focus on results. Reevaluating our current practices and challenging some common beliefs allows us to build systems that support the common work of inclusive teams. We ask that you consider your own practices as we talk through the next steps in looking at inclusive teams as an innovation in education rather than a checkbox alone on a student's IEP. For our time together today, how can you see yourself as an innovator? Innovators tend to have 3 things in common. They see a need, get curious about it, and find a way to fill it. Take a look at one example. Consider the following statement. Disability drives innovation. If you think about it, this is true. Many of the things you use every day to make your life easier include tools often sold as features or upgrades and definitely meet a need. For example, the adjustable seats in your vehicle allow people of various heights to reach the steering wheel, increasing safety and comfort. And we all know the freedom and access independent transportation can bring. Your cell phone now comes standard with voice text, vibration, and blinking lights. Most users see these tools as products that increase productivity and efficiency, but without realizing they were developed to support users with vision and hearing impairments, allowing them to communicate independently and at higher levels. Ramps on the sidewalks were originally developed to allow wheelchair users to go places independently, yet having them opens avenues for strollers, bicycles, and more. The connection to inclusion is this. The purpose of public schools is to create citizens who can function out in the real world and do so as independently as possible. With this in mind, we must consider ways we can proactively innovate our classrooms so that students can move on without us. This ties to big idea number 1, focus on student learning. Let's take a moment to revisit why we have inclusion as a specially designed instruction. To qualify for special education in the first place, students must have an identified disability and an educational need for services. From there, the ARD committee must consider a student's present levels of academic and functional performance to determine which services are necessary. These services must take place in the least restrictive environment according to IDEA. When looking at a student's present levels of academic and functional performance, if a student is 2 years below grade level or less, based on data, they would not demonstrate a need for specially designed instruction to be delivered solely by a certified special education teacher. In other words, they do not need a resource class. Therefore, general education classroom with the support of a special education personnel would be the correct model for the delivery of specially designed instruction. To put it simply, Tier 1 instruction alone has not been effective enough, thus students need specially designed instruction in a gen ed setting. Inclusion is part of the continuum of services that support students with disabilities with just right support in the just right environment. Take a few moments to complete this section of your artifact. Once the decision for inclusion services has been made, we must make sure all parties understand the plan for services and how to carry it out. This leads to our next innovation, the team approach. Now that we've determined a student will receive services in a gen ed setting, we must talk about who delivers the specially designed instruction outlined in the IEP, what this instruction must look like, and the vocabulary we use for each so we are all on the same page. Because this involves multiple adults working in tandem, we shift to big idea number 2, a focus on collaboration. In Wiley ISD, there are 4 major players when it comes to inclusion services. Many of these go by several different names, so let's walk through each and some of their common titles. The gen ed teacher. also known as the general education teacher, classroom teacher, and teacher of record. The special education teacher is most often referred to as the SPED teacher, but can also sometimes be called a teacher, buddy teacher, co-teacher, or case manager. The special education paraprofessional is often referred to as a para, SPED para, or even a helper teacher at some of the younger grades. It is also common for campuses to refer to paraprofessionals as teachers when speaking to students and paras in an effort to convey respect and equality in rank and staff consideration. In this case, we will not refer to a para as a teacher, as there are distinct differences in what a certified teacher and a paraprofessional are expected and allowed to do. The student. One of the first lessons we teach our kindergartners is not to talk about people behind their backs, yet sometimes we do just that when it comes to students. The student is an integral part of their individual education plan, or IEP, and also needs to know what is happening and why. Including them in this conversation in age-appropriate ways may be a cultural shift, but is imperative. The document we use to support each member of the team is called the WISD Inclusion Service Documents and has been included in your resources for this course as well as your artifact. Let's take a closer look at what is expected from each category in class, as a member of the team, and as it pertains to arts. Teacher. The general education teacher is the master of grade level content and uses this knowledge to recognize student needs and leverage the curriculum to fill gaps. They also work to supplement the adopted curriculum using strategies and information from approved sources such as Lead Forward, aligned educational software, district expectations, and solid classroom management strategies. The special education teacher or case manager. Certified special education teachers can function as an inclusion support person, a case manager, or both. As an inclusion support person, the special education teacher is well versed in tools that provide access to grade level content, as well as tips and tricks that support behavior and classroom management. They routinely develop students' IEPs and can be a resource in understanding what is written in a student's IEP, thus ensuring implementation with fidelity. They should also understand the impact of a student's disability on their academic performance and work with the gen ed teacher to safeguard student growth in spite of their disability. The paraprofessional. The role of a paraprofessional is built on the foundation of providing support. The prefix para signifies this support, akin to how we rely on paramedics during emergencies or seek assistance from a paralegal when legal matters arise. Paraprofessionals are tasked with a variety of responsibilities within the classroom. These include conducting small group activities, assisting both general education and special needs students, and delivering educational content. However, it is imperative to recognize that all these tasks must be carried out under the guidance of the classroom teacher and in collaboration with a special education teacher. Teaching new material, independently adjusting assignments, and being the sole recorder of a student's individualized education program data are specifically designated for certified teachers. Effective implementation of tools to access grade level content is a crucial skill that paraprofessionals should possess and may acquire through the support of general education and special education teachers. Additionally, supporting behavior management and classroom procedures is a vital piece of their role. Collaboration between the paraprofessional and the classroom teacher is essential in order to ensure shared responsibility for student behavior, including both positive and negative consequences. Paraprofessionals must have a comprehensive understanding of the student's IEP. They must collaborate with others to ensure faithful implementation, recognize how disabilities impact academic performance, and work closely with the general education teacher to uphold the student's IEP as well as what's expected in the classroom as a whole. When providing support for specially designed instruction in the classroom, it's essential for special education teachers to be involved, even if it's only in a consultative capacity. This involvement ensures that both the paraprofessional and the classroom teacher are adequately prepared to implement the student's IEP. The student. Students are the reason we come to work each day and are an integral part of the inclusive classroom. Students with special needs have been identified as having both a disability and an educational need for services. Because of this, they will also have an individual education program, or IEP, that is developed, reviewed, and accepted by the ARD committee at least annually. The specially designed instruction required in each student's program must be delivered as written. Students receiving specially designed instruction in an inclusive classroom have demonstrated they are 2 years or less below grade level and have a learning disability rather than a cognitive delay. That means, given the right support, students can grow towards mastery of grade level content and take an active part in their education. As much as is developmentally appropriate, the student should know what is required in their plan and be taught how to use and advocate for accommodations and/or modifications. Whether formally or informally, students should participate in the development of their IEP by completing various tools, including but not limited to All About Me documents, interest inventories, or other information that would be helpful to the ARD committee in determining the student's programming. As students get older, they begin to participate in their ARD meetings in person and eventually sign an agreement if still receiving services past their 18th birthday. While it's not always appropriate to specify to a student that they are in special education at a very young age, it is appropriate to help them understand what tools are required by their program and give instruction on how and when each tool should be used. When concerns arise about the success of a student's IEP or the appropriateness of their specially designed instruction in an inclusive setting, it is important to review whether the IEP is in place with fidelity and that all parties understand what is required. If a student is not successful, before considering a change of placement as the first option, a staffing or an ARD committee should be reconvened to consider what adjustments must be made to the IEP. Removing a student from an inclusion setting for academic reasons removes their access to a content specialist and places them on fully modified content. This has significant implications to the student's future academic career and should not be taken lightly. When the data supports the need, inclusive classrooms should be considered. Take a few moments to complete this section of your artifact. Building relationships. We already know the stakeholders are teachers, paras, special education teachers, and students. So let's talk about the relationship builders for each. Ideally, the following activities are completed before students arrive. However, we also understand that sometimes team pairings change throughout the year, or a refresh is needed from time to time. When in doubt, come back to these activities early and often. Let's start with the adults. We can all think of a time it was difficult or awkward to walk into a room. Taking steps to make sure everyone entering our classroom is acknowledged and included is a fundamental piece of this model. It is likely the inclusion classroom has been primarily set up for the preferences and needs of the gen ed teacher, as this is his or her space for the entire day, not just when inclusion is happening. However, there should be systems in place so that added teammates are welcome and understand how to best work within the space. Inclusion teams can build stronger relationships by completing simple get-to-know-you activities. Included in your artifact are several resources for team building and interaction. Whether using the 50 questions document, the welcome interview, Wiley ISD get-to-know-you questions, or team-generated activities like circle questions or conversation cards, it is important to get to know the people you will work with closely. The adult relationships in this arrangement will make the biggest impact of the year. Take the time early to establish and maintain professional and courteous relationships. The students we support. Beginning a new school year is exciting. Both teachers and students report not being able to sleep the night before, wondering what their classes will be like or whether or not their people will be there. Knowing this, it is all the more important to present a united front when building relationships with students. Yes, each member of the inclusion team brings different skills to the table, so keeping in mind high levels of communication and clear understandings are paramount. The general education teacher in the room will take the lead on how the classroom should run, lesson planning, and basic expectations. Sharing this information with inclusion support, whether a certified teacher or para, allows them to echo, reinforce, and model these expectations. Inclusion support personnel will bring specific knowledge to provide necessary supports. This should also be communicated, identifying where to support, how to be discreet, and what the process will be if something isn't working. From there, you as a team will need to discuss the plan for building relationships with students and what classroom routines will be taught and used throughout the year. The adult team must present a united front when working with students, and this can only be done through a sharing of expectations. If you are a paraprofessional or special education teacher, how can you go about getting this information from your classroom teacher? If you are a classroom teacher, what systems do you use to communicate how to build relationships with students and expect your inclusion support to do as well? What is your plan to share this information? In summary, when adults have high levels of communication and support, students benefit, and so do teams. Take a moment to review the resources included with your artifact and make note of the ones you plan to use with your teammates and students. When it comes to the day-to-day operations of inclusion, there are a few major themes: communication, scheduling, content knowledge, and specially designed instruction. Let's review these topics. Communication. Without communication, we are nothing. Part of getting to know your teammates is learning how they prefer to communicate. Focus on the following can help increase successful communication. Get to know each other and your preferences. Do you prefer digital or paper communication, face-to-face or phone call? Set up a system of regular check-ins, especially if there are no predetermined times designated by your campus. Will you check in after school, before, or asynchronously through a series of notes? Have a landing place for topics you need to discuss. This could be in your support staff notebook, a Google Doc, Post-it notes, etc. Having a list ready to go helps you get questions answered and solutions determined quickly. Plan ahead for when help is needed. Who can you talk to if you've already gone to your inclusion teammate and weren't able to get a solution? If you find your default is not to talk to a teammate directly, look at ways to overcome this habit, knowing everyone wants a chance to fix a problem before it is elevated to an administrator or a person outside the team. Understand it is a matter of when communication breakdowns occur, not if. This is not personal. Storming is one of the stages of team development and is more likely to occur when members of the team are tired, overwhelmed, frustrated, or need more attention than the teammate can provide. Taking the time to address this issue results in lessons learned and higher levels of more specific communication moving forward. Scheduling is the spiderweb of a school building. When one schedule changes, it often impacts countless others. While inclusion teams rarely have direct control over their schedules or the schedules of their students, there are a few things that can be done to work within the schedules that have been assigned. First, make sure all teammates are using and following the most up-to-date schedule available. If a pattern develops that someone is late or consistently missing a scheduled section, it is likely due to a change that was not communicated or a misunderstanding of the schedule. Take the time quickly to have a conversation when the schedule breaks down. Stick to the schedule. Teachers and support staff are required to implement the individual education program as it is written. Coming late, leaving early, or missing sessions quickly impacts not only the compliance of the paperwork, but most importantly, the success of the student, not to mention the trust of the team. If a schedule isn't working for whatever reason, get the team and the administrator involved. When the necessary people have the full context, supportive changes are more likely to be made. Because ARD meetings are consistently occurring throughout the year, it is common for a student's schedule to change frequently, thus impacting adult schedules. Knowing your building plan to communicate updates and changes is imperative, as is being comfortable asking questions when something doesn't seem right. We must also remember that a schedule is more than when to show up and when to leave. Schedules connect to what should be happening in the classroom and when. An understanding of what each member of the inclusion team will be doing during their time together must be clear. Teams have to know when specially designed instruction will be delivered and the order of events to ensure that the prescribed services are met. Lean on predetermined systems to maximize time in the schedule. For example, rather than waiting to ask questions until the staff is all together, consider sharing and using some sort of landing place for curriculum information, websites, login information, etc. More of these will be discussed in our in-person session, but it is important to note that communication is a major piece of scheduling and its success or failure. Content knowledge varies from person to person for a myriad of reasons. Maybe this is an inclusion support member's first time to support this content or experience it since they themselves were a student. Maybe this is a first-year teacher or the first year to teach this content or at this grade level. Maybe a member of the team is a second language learner and has a basic understanding but needs to know the information in the context of the English language. Consider that students with learning disabilities grow up to be adults with learning disabilities. It is not unusual for educators to be an individual in need of assistance themselves. Consider the following systems to mitigate content knowledge gaps. Whenever possible, make sure all adults have access to the content and how it will be taught, as well as a way to ask questions as needed. Support staff should be added to Google Classrooms as a teacher so they can see what has been scheduled and have the chance to ask questions for resources ahead of time. Talk as a team about the comfort level each adult has with the content. If a support staff is not strong on the content, what can be done to make sure they have at least the current information for the current unit? What systems will be used to ensure that staff and students have what they need? Use district-approved resources from sources such as teachers' editions and curriculum videos, as well as supplements. Keep resources from Lead Forward and Accommodation Central handy when looking at ways to modify and accommodate content. Contact your learning specialist for additional resources, professional development, and/or coaching sessions. Specially designed instruction. Knowing and using specially designed instructional strategies to support students with special needs comes with practice, and skills can vary widely based on past experience and current student needs. Strategies to support this need can include connecting with other teams in your building to see what they are doing to support a specific student or need. Use your resources such as the special education website to access additional information from sources such as TEA, Region 10, Accommodation Central, and locally developed supports. Contact your special education learning specialist for resources, coaching conversations, and potential solutions to a specific need. Communicate needs with your inclusion team. Maybe practicing what has been learned, whether content or some sort of support is necessary. Discuss with your team opportunities for practice both inside and outside the classroom. Maybe a new documentation system has been established and you need to talk through when and how best to take data or deliver goal instruction. Whatever it is, the commitment to improving your craft is important and should be communicated with the team. And finally, implement the IEP. It seems silly to say, but we must. The IEP is a legal document that must be followed as it is written. It is created and approved by the ARD committee according to the student's identified needs. This helps the inclusion team enhance the student's existing skills and independence for better content knowledge and application growth. When we connect specially designed instruction and innovation to traditional educational practices, We focus our efforts on what we can do to support students together rather than having to carry the load alone. As these systems grow, trust is strengthened and collaboration increases. Just like with students, building relationships with teammates builds common experiences and trust, both of which lend support when times are tough. During our in-person session, we will explore additional resources that support team building and trust among inclusive teams. For now, take a moment to complete the day-to-day section of your artifact. We've made it to big idea number 3, focus on results. While inclusion services are assigned to individual students through their IEPs, the plan is not only a target for student growth, but also a roadmap for staff. Measuring the progress of our students without spending time also developing the skills and habits of our adults is not sustainable and often results in a lack of progress and frustration for everyone. That's where the 4 critical questions of the PLC process come in. Before we move any further, let's pause and take a moment to investigate these questions and how they apply to an inclusion team. You will need your artifact for this section, and your answers will be used during in-person sessions. Question 1. What do we need to know and be able to do as a successful inclusion team? On your artifact, review the WISD Inclusion Services doc and think of one skill needed overall for the whole team to be successful. Then break these needs to what you as an individual need to contribute to the success. This may or may not be an idea that's already in place. Teams are welcome to work through something they already do well in order to make it even better, or you may think of a concept that is lacking on your team and work towards improvement. Think through the information you've received in this session to answer these questions. Question 2. How will we as an inclusion team know if we have learned it and are doing it? The answer to question 2 is a direct reflection of what was reported in question 1. Look back at your answer and think about how you can know if you are doing what you had hoped to do. An easy way to gauge this is to ask yourself these 2 questions. 1. If I do blank, whatever I answered previously, what will it look like? Describe things you might easily see if blank is true. 2. If I do blank, what will it sound like? Use words or phrases to describe what you might hear if blank is true. On your artifact, complete the chart labeled Question 2. One section will be for your team question, and the other section will be for yourself. Question 3. How will we respond as an inclusion team if we did not learn it or cannot do it? This is perhaps the most impactful question as it causes more conversations than any other. Typically, when a team is struggling, the temptation is to be polite and look the other way. This is not because the work is unimportant. Rather, it's because no one's trying to make anyone uncomfortable, cause embarrassment, or get anyone else in trouble. And rightly so. However, it does often reach a point where conversations happen, but not initially with the ones that can directly impact the change. This is where the stages of team development come into play. As a team of professionals, we have a responsibility to address each other in a timely, respectful, and direct manner. We must also recognize that team development is rarely linear and is composed of the following stages. In the forming stage, individuals are assigned to a team and are often on their best behavior, working hard to please one another and anticipate needs, often before being asked. This is also referred to from time to time as the honeymoon phase. As time goes on, some things are discussed and laid out in advance or addressed quickly with an agreement reached. We call this phase norming as the team begins to generate its own norms and what each norm entails. Storming happens when misconceptions lead to misunderstandings. Sometimes it's as simple as where to place materials when not in use. Other times, it's as complicated as handling a student's behavior in a way the other person does not understand or agree with. In our part of the world, we are often raised to be polite, let things go, and keep the team moving forward. And while these expectations are well-intended and deeply rooted, Not discussing a misunderstanding quickly can let a situation fester and get out of control. I've yet to see an instance where an educator got out of bed one morning and decided to intentionally ruin another educator's day. The point is, there's a misalignment of expectations and understandings that needs to be addressed so that trust can be rebuilt or maintained, and the team can move forward as a cohesive unit. Storming is a normal and expected phase of team development. Even so, we must remember to handle these moments professionally with positive intent and seek help when needed. Performing is the sweet spot. While no team is perfect or agrees on or understands everything, this stage is reached when the team has developed and consistently uses strategies to deal with issues in a timely and respectful manner. Just like any given stage of life, no stage of team development lasts forever, and challenges like the stress of testing season, personnel turnover, issues at home, or a health crisis can impact the performance of a team. The expectation is not perfection, but the willingness to address concerns as they arise and support each teammate in their learning. It's obvious the kids are learning, that's why we call them students. But we must also recognize adults are learning too and make space for their needs as well. Consider the following statement. Balance is not a seesaw, it's a posture. This video illustrates a group of individuals traveling in the same direction, keeping their balance by actively moving. The same is true for our teams. We will move to different positions based on the situation we are in. The important thing is to stay on the board and keep traveling forward together. Your artifacts contain several ways a team can address conflict. Choose one and reflect on it in the space provided. And finally, question 4. What will we do if we already know and can do it as an inclusion team? Think about a time you worked with a teammate that was a master of their content. Maybe they manage the pace of the class, use consistent routines and clear expectations, and are just an all-around strong teacher. Or maybe they do one thing really well that you'd like to learn. This is the teammate that already knows it. The following suggestions are ways you can hone your skills by learning from theirs. 1. Consider asking to observe them in action with the specific goal in mind. Foster a culture of innovation by normalizing this process. Consider asking your admin team if a pineapple chart or something similar might be an option for your campus. 2. Ask to join their Google Classroom or if they will share a lesson plan with you so you can see how they plan ahead to embed the skill you're looking to strengthen within your own practice. 3. Connect with teammates across the district. If you don't know who to connect with, ask your learning specialist. They might be able to help set up a Google Meet or a brainstorming session with others who do what you do. 4. Ask someone to come observe you. Let's say you're working on a particular skill and are making a mistake somewhere, but you're not sure where. Ask a colleague to watch you work through the problem and help you identify and correct where you're going wrong. Or maybe you and your team are working on a specific classroom routine, like independent work or managing materials. Recruit the eyes of someone strong in these areas and see what they notice about the pain point in your current system. Knowing a specific step to reteach, rather than trying to swap out an entire routine, builds confidence in students and staff. Maybe you're the one on the team that's strong in your practice and an obvious asset. Let a few key people know you are looking to grow and would like to support the members of the team. Strike up conversations with others about what's working or offer to come be the one that observes, shares, or models what is successful for you. Teamwork is a pattern of behavior, not a one-time event. Be the team player that offers support in the form of solutions and safe spaces. Learn to recognize when someone is coming solely to vent and focus on those that are working to learn and genuinely improve. If you're the one looking to grow, read, watch, listen. Articles, blogs, podcasts, books from reputable sources, anything in the area you'd like to grow. Surround yourself with others that are also looking to get better. And be realistic. Expecting everything to change overnight is exhausting and leads to disappointment and disillusionment. Choose one, maybe two things to address, giving yourself and your team ample time to internalize the new strategy before trying to learn or change something else. As we close this section, take a moment to make sure you've completed the 4 critical questions section of your artifact. We started this course with a packed agenda and have discussed inclusion as an innovation that not only allows but requires special education services to be delivered differently than general education instruction alone. Inclusion as a specially designed instruction, walking through points in history and legal precedents for this service. We touched on the roles and responsibilities of staff and students in the Wiley ISD Inclusion Services document. We discussed common barriers and potential solutions to inclusion using the 4 critical questions of the PLC process. And we've woven throughout this course the idea that inclusion teams are professional learning communities using the 3 big ideas. You have joined your Google Classroom and added an artifact. Remember, this artifact will be used in our in-person sessions to work with your teammates and other professionals, continuing the conversation and deepening current strategies. Our final task today will be this. On your artifact, locate the section titled Suit Yourself. To complete this exercise, you will respond to at least one of the following prompts. Hearts. Choose something from the heart. How did you feel during this course? What did this learning experience mean to you? Clubs are things that grow. What are some new ideas, new thoughts, or a new point of view that you have grown throughout this session? Diamonds are gems that last forever. What are some of the gems of wisdom that were gathered in this session? Spades are used to dig in the garden. What is a conversation you'd like to have about planting seeds or digging deeper into things during this class? Thank you for your time and attention to this course. We look forward to seeing you in our in-person session. If you have any questions, please reach out to your special education learning specialist.